שלום לכולם וערב טוב, אני אלייני ואיתי יש את מירב שרייבר ודוקטור קרל היינץ ראושר, שהוא האורח שלנו של דרך הקונסטלציה בינואר, והוא יעסוק איתנו או יביא למרחב שלנו את קונסטלציית הסימפטומים. אנחנו נפגשנו היום כדי לראיין אותו, מי שתראיין אותו באנגלית זאת מירב, ואני ככה הפרומו של תחילת הראיון. אז מירב, אנחנו עוברים אלייך, ולשאלות שלך לקרל.
Okay, hello everybody. Hi Yael, hi Carl, Heinz. So yes, we are meeting here in this opportunity to interview Dr. Karl-Heinz Rauscher, that will be a visitor from the School of Constellation Path in Israel. He's coming in 14 to 16 January 2021, and he will facilitate a symptoms constellation workshop for 3 days. We are hoping that this will be face-to-face in Netanya city. It's a place next to the sea. We found a very beautiful place to work with you, all of us. And yes, so this is our first meeting. And we wish to ask you maybe to say some words to introduce something of your professional work or professional development. And when I ask that, I'm actually sitting with maybe a special point in your life that you wish to share, where something happened to you, moving from a doctor to constellation facilitator and more. So please,
Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm glad that we can talk today. Well, I'm a medical doctor from Germany, and I studied in Munich, South Germany, and part of my studies I did in the United States. And I'm a specialist for internal medicine, and at the same time a psychotherapist and specialist for constellation work. And the point of no return, say, when I found out that constellation work is really something special and improved our possibilities of healing, was 1993, when I was on visiting a conference for psychosomatic medicine, psycho, the soul, and soma, the body. There was just a table with books in the breaks. And I just saw a book, and this was the first book which was published about the family constellation work of Bert Hellinger. And I just took it with me on vacation to Italy, and I read it. And then I was really convinced that this is something special, because up to this point, as a medical doctor and as a psychotherapist, we in the clinic, we just were thinking we would be avant-garde, very on the very rim of science, by knowing that a human being, a patient, a client, is more than a body, because there is a soul and there is a spirit. So we already looked at the human being as a unity of soul, body, and spirit. But Hellinger, with his work of family constellation, said that you can understand a human being only fully if you know about his connections or her connections to the family of origin, to the generations, former generations way back, and all the trauma, of course, trauma events, traumata of the past, which could also influence your life by being part of a greater system. And I thought, okay, this is something special. And I got to know this work, and I trained myself with Bert Hellinger and his first row of students in that time. And then I did my first family constellation in the clinic there with a patient a client, and she had depression for a long, long time. And we had her in the clinic already for 12 weeks, and we couldn't improve her condition. So, and then we did a family constellation. There was something with her and her mother. And after that, she said, well, I'm much better. And she lost the depression within 1 week after the constellation. And I said, okay, that's something special. I have to do that. I will want to be a specialist in that, in constellation work, which then I did. And I left the clinic and I founded a private practice. And this was already then 1 or 2 years later, 1994. And ever since, I'm working with that method and developing it in my way.
Thank you. Yeah. Feeling touched by this story, small story you bring, because we meet these stories every day, and I think facilitate. I'm curious, Karl-Heinz, what is your how can you say the difference, or what is your special addition to the classic constellation work? What came out of your individual process?
Well, the special thing, I think, in my work is that I never accepted any borders of thinking. I always felt very free to make experiments, to go over the known borders of constellation work. So Bert Hellinger did family constellations, and of course there were also symptoms and diseases somehow involved because people wanted to get healed by something. But I, as a medical doctor, I went more into that realm of symptoms and body symptoms, mental symptoms, and the body and the soul, and it introduced over the times new positions into constellation work. For example, the message of a symptom, the message of a disease, and then I call it today symptom constellation, which is also including like constellations of an organ or the body or the soul. And then I was just open what shows when I do that, what kind of messages can a disease bring for you, or body pain, or a soul condition like a depression or sadness, or failing in your profession, and all those. What can the message be? And the most frequent background of that is the family of origin, some unresolved trauma in a former generation of your family of origin, but it's not always. So I left those the realm of the family if it's needed, if the message was pointing to something else. And sometimes, and it's not so seldom, it is not the family, it is yourself. You have a trauma. Maybe you experienced a trauma in childhood, in this life, or in youth, or later on. And this could also cause your symptom. And then, like 7 or 8 years ago, I found out that also a trauma which you experienced yourself, but not in this life, in a former life, can also be the energetic background of a disturbance and a disease and a pain. And now, I think like 20% of the clients who do a constellation with me, they have that background. So it's not seldom. And many constellators don't have that broad view today. And then the biggest difference of my work compared to other constellators is then that I learned to integrate shamanic healing energies into constellation work. And I call that healing voices. And this shamanic work developed in my work. I didn't search for it, but it developed it in my work in the last 20 years. I was like chosen to do that. And in the beginning, I didn't want to do it because I thought I'm a medical doctor, I'm a constellator, and I'm not a shaman. But today I know that I'm also a shaman because I do this work. And this is a discovery. In my opinion, this is a great discovery. In the normal constellation, in normal systemic constellations, family constellations, for example, we try to get access to the informational field, to the informations about former events, about former trauma, about how the relationships between humans really are in this family and around you. So we get access to the informational field or knowing field, whatever you call it. But then with the shamanic energies, it's different. It's another field, and those healing energies which work in healing voices, they are also invisibly everywhere in the air, like a special Wi-Fi field. But it's not information; it's really healing energy. And those healing energies can and often want to help us to heal. But for some reason, they cannot do it without us. So they need a human being who is able, this is important, who is able and willing to be like a path, like a medium, like a channel for them. And the integration of this work into constellation work, for example, with victim and perpetrator fields, where unresolved trauma is still on its way. The trauma is like energetically not over, even it's like 70 or 80 or 100 years ago. And so many issues from the Second World War and the Nazi regime and other wars in other countries are still unresolved trauma in many systems, many family systems. And healing voices, the shamanic energies, can bring those souls who are trapped in this trauma out of that. So healing voices work also with the souls of the ancestors who had to go through that trauma. And this is really new, and this is the big difference in my work compared to others.
So I want to clarify something to see that I understood or understand. You do, like, you put the representative as a family constellation, me, my issue, my parents. And when you sense or feel that it's more energetic, you don't put representative to the issue, to the energy, but you start on doing voice therapy. Or
yeah, well, it's like this. I start with a client as a position, and with the issue or the disease or the symptom or whatever it is, and with the message of that symptom or the message of that disease. This is the starting point, and then I don't bring the family in right away, because sometimes, like 20-30% of the cases, it's not the family background which is involved. So I developed a test, how I can test that, whether it's family related, whether it's related to a self-experienced trauma in this life, or whether it's related to a self-experienced trauma in a former life. This is actually a very short test. It takes only 3 minutes. Or 3 or 4 minutes, and then I see where the real energetic background is, and then I go into that direction. And if it's in the family realm, then this constellation is transformed into a family constellation, and then I do like the constellation and see where it is, and I bring all the positions, parents maybe, or in a former life, the one you were in that former life, and then we develop that to the point where we cannot go on with the classic tools of constellation work, where you normally would end. But if you feel that there is more healing needed, I just define a position of the healers in the constellation, go there, and then I ask those, I invite those healing energies. And then I just lend them my body for a few minutes because it goes through gestures, and I lend them my voice for sounds because it goes with sounds. And sometimes also words are coming or sentences, but out of ancient languages which we don't understand on the brain level, but we do understand them on the heart level. And through those gestures, through those sounds, through those words and sentences, those healing energies work. And I'm just a medium for that. I just follow it like every second, from second to second, I follow it. I don't know what's coming. And I don't interfere at all. I just witness that. And the representatives of the positions in the constellations, they experience that healing too, and they report it, and they report what it does to them, how, and the whole picture changes. So I learned really from the representatives in the constellations what healing voices really does. And of course, the client then for the client is much easier than to get rid of a rest maybe of burdened energies if the souls who were involved in the former trauma have also got some peace.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. As you spoke, I felt the synthesis, like a synthesis of so many mediums that are coming through you, and actually invite many audiences to come, many people from all kinds of healing practices, doctors, psychotherapists, constellators, who can really profit from this workshop. And whoever is just interested in development himself into something more real. Yeah. So this is part of a series of interviews that Yael and me will do with you. We meet sometimes before you come to Israel. And we will also in the future discuss what happens if something, if the world needs another arrangement due to the virus. So yeah, so I think this is okay for now. Yael, do you want to add something or ask?
Just ask if Karl-Heinz, if you want to say anything to conclude, to close. I sense that I know more about the way you look at the field now. And for me, it was really interesting to hear you, to listen to you. And if we are going to close now, so it will be nice. Maybe you have some words for closure.
Yes, I think that it is not only interesting, it is wonderful that we have those healing energies around us. They are here everywhere, and they can and want to help us, but they need us. So somebody who's able and willing to be a medium and knows how to do that, because you have to be really pure inside, meaning that you are not judging it at all. If you touch, you cannot do that. And so what I just wanted to say is that it is wonderful, and if you experience that work, it will also touch you. Everybody who's witnessing that is somehow touched by that in a healing way. And well, and I want just to thank you that you invite me to Israel and to your country to bring some healing work there.
Okay. So I have one last question. I have probably many, but for the skeptics, you are an MD, a medical doctor, and you do a shamanic work. So do you need to believe? If I don't believe and I come into your workshop, will it work on me or not? You took a really big path from being something really conventional scientifically to be a medium. So for me that's looking, or not me, someone that looks at you and say, he's too weird for me, or I want to do the same path also. What kind of message do you have to the skeptic audience?
Well, I am very skeptical myself, and I don't believe anything beforehand. I want to know, because believing does not help, because it could be wrong or right. Believing does not help us. What really helps us and what convinces us is a personal experience, a deep personal experience which you have inside. But you can have this kind of experience only if you open up for it. So if you want to really open up for the experience like this, having a symptom constellation or experience a symptom constellation and healing voices, the only thing you have to do is to not judge it in the beginning, and don't say yes or no, I believe it, yes, or I don't believe it, because you don't know. So be honest to yourself and say not yes and no, say like possible. It's possible. I don't know, and I want to know. So you open up and you see what it's doing, what this is doing to you, and then your experience will convince you. And believing, this is not a believing system. I still work and understand my work, even in this realms, even in shamanic energies, even in system constellations. I consider that as scientific work. I'm just going further than maybe others who don't believe in those energy things. But they don't believe it because they learn not to believe, because it's a part of this scientific world today that they live in a belief system. They don't believe energy work, so they will never experience it. They cannot do a study on it. To do a study on it, you first have to open up and say, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I want to know. And a real scientist, wants to know and doesn't block his view or her view by believing or not believing. So my suggestion is to just open up for that if you're curious, if you want to know, and then see what your personal experiences will be with that.
Thank you for this lovely answer. Yeah. So yeah, we will end for now, and we will meet you again in the next few weeks. And
yes, I look forward to that. I look forward to that.
Me too. And yeah, it's really good we met now. It feels a beginning.
Yeah, we are growing together as a team, and this is wonderful. It's wonderful here.
Yeah, so thank you, Yael.
ואני רוצה להזמין בעצם את הצופים הישראלים שלנו, דוברי העברית, אם עולים בכם שאלות מתוך הראיון, אנחנו ניפגש, מירב ואני ניפגש עם קארל אחת לחודש, אז אם עולים בכם שאלות עוד על מה יהיה, או חששות, רצונות, כל מיני שאלות, אתם מוזמנים לפנות לאחת משתינו, כדי לשאול ונעלה את זה במפגש הבא שלנו, ובואו לכנס, אנחנו נהיה או פיזית או בזום, אחד מהשניים, אבל הכנס אכן יקרה בינואר, ואנחנו ממש נשמח לראות אתכם.